Okay, so can we just be honest? If Malcolm X was alive today, he'd be pissed off at the state of Black America in 2025. You don't believe me? Let's talk about it.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself who taught you to hate being what God gave you.
So what up, family? It's Dr. Larry Smith. I'm a historian, history professor, entrepreneur, Pan-Africanist, pro-black social scientist, social justice activist, queer boy, who have a lot of shit to say about a lot of topics. So if you want to know more about my opinions and my discussions and some educational content amongst other shit, you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so that you know when I post. And so that you can, chime in down in the comment section. Or you can follow me on TikTok at Dr. Larry Speaks Truth as well. I'm also on Instagram at Dr. Larry. You can find me any goddamn where. I am out there. So let's talk. Okay, so my opening statement was that Malcolm X would have been upset or disappointed at the state of Black America in 2025, and I wholeheartedly believe that. For those of you who do not know, Malcolm X's 100th birthday is coming up on May 19th in only a few days, right? And so I think it is fitting for us to kind of pay tribute to a man who had done so much in just 39 years of life. Y'all know he was assassinated in 1965 and born in 1925, almost, 40 years old. And he lived a fairly deep, well, he made it to 40, but he lived a fairly deep life, right? And Malcolm's whole mission was about Black progress, Black sustainability, Black independence, Black separatism in a lot of ways. By the way, make sure you get you a copy of Malcolm X's autobiography. The autobiography of Malcolm X is told to Alex Haley, because we will be reviewing that periodically on this channel throughout the next couple of months, just as a celebration of the 100-year life of Malcolm. Nevertheless, let's talk about it. Let's talk about a couple of things that Malcolm just would not have stood for had he been alive in 2025. One, Black republicanism. Black conservatism in the way that it has come out to be these days. Nowadays, in order to be a Black conservative, your best bet for success in that venture is to be anti-Black. You cannot be a Black conservative and talk about the actual things that affect the Black community, like racism and like discrimination and prejudice and things like that. You have to always put down and point your finger at the things that the Black community is doing wrong. That is the way to be accepted as a Black conservative. Now, while we aren't going to act as though there isn't room for improvement in the Black community and a lot of things, what we're not going to do is beat down on the Black community and just completely ignore the impact of white supremacy and racism and that they've had on the community for the hundreds of years we've been exposed and surrounded by it. However, the Black conservative tends to have to beat down on the negatives and never ever call out any of the negatives coming from the right community. And there's so many of them, y'all. So many of them who think that they're representing Black progress, but really what they're representing is Black subordination, aka the House Negro syndrome. Two, celebrity culture. Malcolm X even commented on celebrities being seen as community leaders. He said that this was a farce. This wasn't I mean, he went down a list of names, but he's absolutely right. Today, this glamorization of celebrity culture, it seemed like everything celebrities say, people latch on. I remember just a couple of days ago, Snoop Dogg trying to make, I guess he was trying to clarify his support of Donald Trump. We didn't ask for your clarification, sir. You did what you did because your wallet mattered more than your connection to your people. But then again, you were a gang member. And we know that sometimes that lifestyle is more important than the lives of black people. But that's a whole nother conversation for another video. But the idea of black celebrityism and how we follow behind them and we listen to them more than we listen to our educators, more than we listen to our politicians, more than we listen to other advocates and people who are out on the streets working for black people, we'll take the word of a celebrity over all of that. And then once that celebrity does something like Kanye, and that shows that ultimately it wasn't about the black community, but it was about self-driven, egotistical motives, then all of a sudden our feelings are hurt because someone we put that much level of respect and authority in let us down. But Brother Malcolm would have been completely disgusted at the attachment to celebrity influencers and how we see them as the experts on where our community needs to go first and go forward to move progressively. I also think that Brother Malcolm will be upset at the selfish consumer, but more specifically, capitalistic exploitative culture that we have going on in our community. How many times on social media you get someone trying to teach you how to do the 4X for a cost? Or someone's trying to teach you how to trade stocks or buy into real estate and all these things. They're not helping you. They're trying to make a profit off of something that when you check the fine details, it's something that your knowledge on is no more limited than theirs. Or no more, your knowledge is not as limited as theirs would seem to be more. When in reality, they just read a couple of books or regurgitate a few things from some websites that they've seen, and they're promoting themselves as an expert. That in itself, the idea that you're exploiting your own people just to teach your own people, to me, is just something Malcolm X would have looked down upon. Malcolm X also would have looked down upon the mass amount of men who are out here interracially dating and and not only are y'all interracial dating, like for example, this last NFL draft, there were so many young men out there who had white female partners. And it was like, wow, like, none of that money's going back to the black community. All that money's going into that future generation of white people, you know, their kids and their community that they're going to obviously live into. And it's not abnormal, but the problem that I think I have and the problem that I know Malcolm X would have had with this interracial dating situation is that it comes at the expense and the degradation of the black woman. Anybody out there saying they hate black women and they are black is ridiculous because your mother's a black woman. The person who cradled you, incubated you for life, and then gave you life is a black woman. So to have the level of hatred for black women, to me, just seems ridiculous. And I think it would be ridiculous to Brother Malcolm as well. Kind of in line with this same moment or idea is this age shaming, right? This young versus old generational issues. The young people are the promise, but the old people are the keepers of the wisdom to help those promises become realized. And so I think Malcolm will be upset at how disrespectful the young people are to the elders, but also how dismissive some of the elders can be to the young generations. I do believe that would be a disappointment to him. I also believe that this idea of an attachment to any established religion, Christianity, and in many instances, even Islam, would have been a problem for Brother Malcolm. Not because he's anti-religion, but because he knew then, just as many of us know now, that if religion couldn't get us out of slavery, it is not going to get us towards black progress. Especially Christianity, when its intent was never to liberate us. Its intent was to keep us subservient. And he would have probably seen that more in line with what he thought about Martin Luther King's mission, which was a passive, docile, weak mission in his opinion. And Christianity has made a lot of people weak. even though Christianity has been used around the world as a tool for violence and for war for centuries. But the black use of it is docile. Wade in the water. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of this world and I'll make it to a better world in the future. While this world is complete shit for many people. Yeah, Brother Malcolm would have been fundamentally annoyed with that aspect of reality. I believe so. I also think that he would be annoyed that so many people are terrified of progress because of what white people had done in the past. You'd be surprised how many people I talk to, because I talk a lot about black progress, and I try to go beyond where the civil rights movement went and try to, that's why I founded the Boys College, and I'm trying to grow that. That's why I always speak about a progressive liberation of black people, simply because, staying stagnant is not the option. But I think a lot of people are terrified of moving forward because of what happened when they did. When you talk about Tulsa, when you talk about Wilmington, when you talk about Rosewood, when you talk about, any of these black towns that were destroyed by white violence, it created a fear of people that if we build it, they're just going to tear it up. But the goal is, don't stop building. At some point, they'll get tired of tearing it up. Or at some point, you'll get solid enough and strong enough and organized enough to defend it. That's the ultimate goal, to be able to defend what you create. Because that's one thing we have a deep issue with in our community. Our creations, our cultural creations, our social creations, our economic creations, we allow everybody to have access to and to take it away from us many times. That has been one of our biggest problems, and I do believe that Brother Malcolm would have seen that as a major issue. He would have said, gatekeep your shit. So these are just some of the things. I can go on and on and on. There's many things that I think that Brother Malcolm will be disappointed with our community in. Because we've made progress, but it's not a cohesive, organized, collective movement, right? If there's rich black people, there shouldn't be many poor black people. We should all be trying to rise everyone up in the community. That should be everybody's mission. And then somehow along the way in the last 50 years, we have developed in some of us an individual mindset where all men are created equal. In our minds, we're individualizing that when that's not an African way of thinking. African mindset thinks about the collective, raising the Ubuntu principle of all of us, one, together, rising. And I think in this American culture, many of us black people have adopted the white way of individualism, the white self-centered mentality. And that has created a severe harm in our community. All of these things that I talked about today are a example, or should I say a consequence of the individual black mind as opposed to the collective African mind. And I do think Brother Malcolm would be quite disappointed in where we are at this moment. Now, there's things he would celebrate, of course. He would celebrate that we're moving more into creating businesses to be able to create jobs for black people. He would be ecstatic that there's so many black women that are being educated, because he talked about an educated black woman in a society, and that keeps a society going strong. He would have been proud of that. He would have been proud of things like Black Lives Matter. He would have been proud of our athleticism, our power, and our worth and value as a people collectively is quite strong. But we all don't know that, and many of us don't live in that truth. Many of us still live in the truth bound by white supremacy and bound by white social norm. And that is something that Malcolm X tried to get us out of seeing ourselves and experiencing ourselves through white lenses. But that takes work. It takes reconditioning your mind. It takes studying those who decided that that's not what they were going to follow. And it takes bravery, because it's easy to follow the patterns that are placed before you. But when you're trying to break the mold, it requires a great amount of difficulty and self-sacrifice, which a lot of people aren't willing to do. However, the leaders that we had, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and so many, took the ultimate sacrifice just for us. So what more can we do? So anyway, get your copy of the autobiography of Malcolm X. Make sure you're reading it, because we're going to talk to it, speak to it, speak about it, reference it over these next few weeks, as we are in celebration of Brother Malcolm X's 100th solar turn around this sun, his birthday, because his influence is still radiant. And I believe that Malcolm's message was a message for today. For right now, in this moment, Malcolm's message of self-autonomy, separatism, pushing forward a strong Black community, a global connection of African people is for the moment today. Because there's no other time that we've had in history, in this country, in this world, in which we're able to do that. So anyway, that's it. That's all. I'm picking back up the YouTube. So this is what you're seeing here. I'm trying to get things organized and have a systemic plan that I follow so that y'all can get weekly content from me and, or whatnot. Enjoy the educational content also, because I use my channel as an educational repository. So enjoy some of that as I'm building that. And reach out to me if you have ideas for content. If you have things that you think might be cool, we'll try to incorporate some of those things, if not all of it, if we can. But yeah, let's keep it Black and keep it a stack. And at the end of the day, as a people, we're nothing by ourselves. The collective is where the power is. Black power.